Workshop. Now, last time we started work on a combined tool shed and trash storage facility. Today we're going to finish it up. I'll show you all the details next, right here on the new Yankee Workshop.
The new Yankee Workshop features the craftsmanship of Norm Abram.
Well, this shed is going to be great. I'm going to have plenty of room for my rototiller and my snowblower, as well as my lawnmower and all the other hand gardening tools that I have. Of equal importance to this shed is our rubbish and recycling facility that's going right on the back here. Now, I started this morning by building one of the gable walls, and I'm ready to build the second one. But before we get started, let's take a moment to talk about tool safety. Be sure to read, understand, and follow all the safety rules that come with your power tools. Knowing how to use your power tools properly will greatly reduce the risk of personal injury. And remember this, there is no more important safety rule than to wear these safety glasses. Well, let's put her in place and drive it home. Now, this is a piece of 2x6 that I've beveled at the top at 30 degrees and notched at the bottom to fit over the end wall. And this will be the ledger against which I'll set the rafters. Now, wherever I'm driving a nail, it's not going just into the plywood. It's hitting the stud on the other side. Now, here's a stud and a jack that'll support a header across the front. I'll pin that to the floor and to the end wall. Now, the header is made up of two 2x6s that have a piece of 1/2-inch plywood right in the middle and a 2x4 on top. Now, there's a post right here in the middle, and that'll be to hinge the doors. Now, this is not much of a roof span, so I can use 2x4s for the rafters. And I've cut them so that they overhang the header by 3/4 of an inch. Now, I'm going to use this piece of 5/8-inch plywood for the roof. That should be plenty strong enough. Now, I know the plywood is square, so I can use it as a lever to square up the frame, as long as I nail one end first. Now, these blocks will be used to secure the vertical siding. Now, the siding for the trash shelter is 1x6 Western red cedar, and it's tongue and groove. It has a rough side and a smooth side. We're going to put the smooth side out. For the piece that goes up against the shed area, I've ripped off the tongue. I'm going to attach the siding to the frame with 6-penny galvanized finish nails through the tongue so that they won't be seen later. Now it's just a matter of trimming off the excess with the circular saw and then doing the other end. Whenever I install unprimed trim at this time of the year, I like to put a coat of paint on it as soon as possible. You never know when it's going to rain or when it's going to be too cold. It's also a lot easier to do it now than to try to cut in around it later. Now I install a 1x6 rake board on each end, and you'll notice that I'm leaving it long. I'll trim it after I install the fascia. Now, this is a plumb line, and this is the level line. And it's tar paper time again. And a little bit more of my nylon mat to keep the shingles dry. Well, now we'll shingle the roof, just like we did earlier on the main roof, being sure to stagger the joints and leave a space between the shingles. All right, that takes care of the wood shingling. Now I'm going to take a piece of lead and run it on the roof and up the wall to waterproof this joint. Now lead is very soft, and by using a 2x4 to distribute the blows of the hammer, I can easily form it into the corner.
Let's break away, relax your mind. Let twisted roads help you unwind. You're in control now. You're on a roll now. You're making whoopee.
Nothing puts you in complete control quite like the Agile DeVille.
You're really moving. Feels so soothing. You're making whoopee.
DeVille, for the time of your life.
HGTV's on location in Dallas with miles of aisles of incredible new products at this year's International Builders Show. Whether you're planning a major remodel, a quick fix, or just like really cool tools, you won't want to miss the 1999 International Builders Show. Sunday 9 to 9 on HGTV.
Well, now for some trim. The first piece of trim I want to install is known as a water table. Here I'm using a 1x6. And architecturally, it really defines the bottom of the building. I first installed a piece of tar paper as a barrier, and now I'll just nail it in place. Well, now for the last few minutes, I've moved the operation over here to the workshop, and I'm starting to form a drip cap which will sit on top of that water table. I've taken some 2x4 cedar and ripped it into strips 1 5/8 inches wide. I've now tipped the saw blade to 10 degrees, and I'm going to run the top edge of the drip cap. Now with the blade still at 10 degrees, but a bit lower, and the fence moved away, I can make the second pass. Now the final pass is a little curve cut, so that as the water rolls off the edge, it'll drop off instead of running on top of the water table board. Now this is another element of the trim called the corner boards. They're made up of 5/4 by 5 pre-primed pine, and you'll notice that I've beveled the bottom of each piece so that it'll meet the bevel of the drip cap. I'm going to nail them all together here in the shop and then bring them out to the shed. Now these pieces of 5/4 by 6 will become the freeze boards. They sit right up underneath the soffit. The clad boards will come up to meet them. That's why I'm making a rabbet in the back side so I can slip the clad board underneath. Now I like to run a bead of caulking between the water table board and the drip cap. All right, let's see how this goes together. It's going to be good. Now, in order to install the corner board, I have to chisel out a little bit of the drip cap so that it'll come down tight. Now, before I set the corner board in place, I want to run a bead of caulking. Now I'm nailing off the corner board about every 16 inches, and I'm using a ring shank 8-penny stainless steel nail. All right, now for those freeze boards. Now the freeze board just fits tight up against the soffit. Now to dress up where the freeze board meets the soffit, I'm just going to install a 3/4 inch quarter round. Oh, good morning. I thought I'd get started today by working on the windows we're going to use for our shed. Now, I purchased some standard double-hung windows from my lumberyard. These are straight out of the factory. Now, when they arrived, they had this type of casing called a brick mold casing. And I don't really like this look. I want a more flush look. So I've removed the brick mold casings, and now I'm going to attach some strips of pine along the edge so that I can fasten the window in the opening. Then I'll cover the seam with a half-round piece of cedar. I'm just going to use biscuits and glue to hold these pieces on. All right, well, while that dries, let's make the molding. Now, to make the molding for the windows, I've ripped some pieces of cedar 1.25 inches square. I've set up a 1/2-inch radius roundover bit in my router shaper table, and I'm just going to ease 2 corners. The first cut I want to make is at 15 degrees. And that cut will match the slope of the window's sill. With it set in position, I can now mark the length and miter the corner. Now a little bit of glue, and I'll just secure the pieces in place with some 6-penny finish nails. And the last step is to trim back the horns on the sill flush to the molding. Now here's one of the windows for the gable end. Now this is not a stock window unit. I bought the sash, but I made the frame. And here are the various parts. Here's the sash. I picked up a piece of standard windowsill from the lumber yard. And this is just 1x stock. The first thing I want to do is cut the sill to size. Now with my stacked dado head cutter set up in the table saw, I can make dados in the side jamb. One for the top header piece and one for the sill. Now I'll just set the miter gauge 15 degrees off of 90 and plow out the dado for the sill. Now I'll just nail it together with 5-penny box nails. No glue is required. Now when I install the sill, I'm going to use a scrap as a spacer because I want to be able to slip the casing down later. Now these thin strips are stops against which the sash will rest. Now I've just nibbled away a notch in the casing, and that's so that it can fit over the sill. And now for the moldings. And now I can set the sash in place and a couple little stops to hold it. Now we can put the windows in and start the clapboarding. The first windows that I want to put in are the double hung windows on the front of the shed. And now you can see that the casing ends up flush with the plywood so that I can have the clapboards run right up to the molding. Now I want to raise the window up so I have a 4-inch space at the top and keep it centered. Okay, that's nice and plumb. I can nail it off.
Want to really enjoy the great outdoors? Then get rid of all that old stuff, because Lowe's knows how to help. We're your Weber Grill headquarters, with terrific Weber grills for every budget and every appetite.
Lowe's has a huge selection of top-quality patio furniture, too.
All at guaranteed everyday low prices.
So now that the outside's done, you can work on the rest of the house.
When it comes to outdoor living, Lowe's knows.
Lowe's, proud sponsor of 1999 Special Olympics World Games.
I've just got this burning love for food. But sometimes it just doesn't love me back. Heartburn surging up to here. What my doctor calls acid reflux. When I get it, he says, get Gaviscon.
Only regular Gaviscon forms a soothing, protective barrier to help keep stomach acid down. where it belongs. Mylanta can't, Hepzibah AC can't. Only Gaviscon can.
So my heartburn doesn't come back to burn me.
Gaviscon. It helps keep acid down where it belongs.
Does tossing one of these into your tank kill germs? Well, here's one way to be sure. Lysol Continuous Action Automatic Toilet Cleaner. It not only cleans, it kills germs. No other automatic toilet cleaner kills more. You have our word on it.
Come on, Woody, I got work to do. Come on, buddy, get up there.
It's a cat, Woody. It's a cat.
Comfort Therm insulation from John's Manville is wrapped in plastic.
The mailman. Go get the mailman.
So you don't have to worry about itching.
Fine, I'll get you down.
Which means it's easy to install.
What?
If you ever get to that point, Comfort Therm from John's Manville. You don't have to worry about itching. Available at home improvement centers.
With over 800 tax law changes, doing your own taxes can be a nightmare.
Hey.
Hi, Bill from H&R Block.
What are you doing in my dream?
Well, it's tax time. Trying to save you some anxiety.
Thanks.
H&R Block. We know. Do you?
Forecast mostly sunny sky.
I wanted an English garden in the living room. I wanted the kids to walk on eggshells in the dining room. But in the family room, sky's the limit. And I got it all at Sears.
For carpeting and flooring, Sears is just what you're looking for. Great selection, great service, and right now, a special sale. Sears has DuPont Stainmaster, Anso Crush Resistor, wear dated, and more. Durable, stain resistant, with installation warranted for as long as you own your home. And you know Sears will be there to back it up. We guarantee it. Plus, we offer flexible credit plans, too. Just ask our consultants. They'll help you get just what you want for every room in your home. This isn't just carpeting. It's carpeting from Sears. Call for your nearest Sears store. For 1 week, get no billing, payments, or finance charge till July 99 when you use your Sears card.
And for the breakfast room, I wanted a strong, hearty oatmeal. And I got it.
Now, the next thing that I like to do is put some paper before I side. I like to use this red rosin paper. It's inexpensive, and it gives a little bit of a barrier between the siding and the sheathing. Now, there are two more final pieces of trim to install. These 5/4-inch thick strips that fit tightly up against the overhang of the gable, and then I'll just fit the clapboards into that. There's one here and one down the other side. While I have the scaffolding here, I'm going to clapboard the gable end first. There's a lot of tricky cuts, and this is a nice, comfortable platform to work on. Now, for reference, I'm going to have a full course of clapboard coming all the way up to the bottom of this frieze board. So I've transferred that line around, and that becomes my starting point. The butt edge of the clapboard is the starting point. I've laid out 4-inch on center for the exposure all the way up to the peak, and I've put some caulking in the corner. Now, when I nail this first one, I'm not going to nail it at the butt edge where I usually do. I'm going to nail it up here. That way I can slip the clapboard up from below when I finish this end. Now, these pencil lines show the location of the studs, so that I make sure that I'm nailing the clapboards right to the studs. Now I'm just going to take a scrap of clapboard and tack it in place. Now the clap acts as a guide for my handsaw. Now I can remove this little piece, and that means I don't have to notch around it with the clapboard. It's a lot easier. For the next clapboard, I tack it in place as close as I can to the return and at the correct height. Draw a line across, and then I can start the layout for this cut. I measure up from the line to the soffit. It's 1 1/4 inches. Transfer that to the clap. Now over here, to the bottom of the molding, 2 9/16. Now up to the very peak of this roof here, the edge, 4 5/16. Now we'll just draw some horizontal lines. Now here I'm just using a pair of dividers to scribe the return. The distance that they're set to is the distance from the corner board to the end of the clapboard. Now we'll try to cut it out. Now we'll switch to a coping saw and finish it up. Okay, let's see how it fits. Not bad. Now I got to do the same thing to the other end. All right, that's good. Now, compared to these two, the rest are going to be easy. Now, at the top of the window, so that the water doesn't run behind the molding, I'm going to take a piece of lead and form it in place. Next, the clapboard. Now, with that set, I can roll the flashing over the edge.
Order a home video of the project you've just seen Norm build, complete with a measure drawing and materials list. Call toll-free 1-800-892-0110. The price is $24.95 plus shipping and handling. Get the measure drawing alone for only $10. The number again is 1-800-892-0110.
Don't wait in line, shop online. Shopping.com is the best way to shop 24 hours a day. Find over 250,000 computer products. We've got all the hardware as well as the latest software titles and games. Millions of brand name products at everyday low wholesale prices. Get this Toshiba Satellite Pentium 2266 with 66 megabyte synchronous DRAM and CD-ROM for only $12.78. We're the final word at low prices, period. Check out our new communication center and build your own website and get your own email account free. www.shopping.com. Shop us on the internet.
You always hurt the one you love, the one you shouldn't hurt at all.
Something's changed, Peg. I thought I knew who you were. But when I walked into this room and saw...
It's the mini blinds.
Mini what?
Mini blinds. While you were out this morning, something came over me. I knew I had to make a change, and I said to myself, Lowe's can show me how. So I measured all the windows, and off I went. Blinds come in a variety of materials like vinyl, aluminum, or wood, in stunning colors and finishes. Back home, I set to work. I screwed the brackets into the side window casings at the top, slid the blinds into place, and installed the valance. It was easy.
I have to tell you, Peg, with these new mini blinds, I see you in a completely new light.
It's not that hard. Lowe's can show you how.
When it comes to home improvement, Lowe's knows.
With over 800 tax law changes, doing your own taxes can be a nightmare.
Hey.
Hi, Bill from H&R Block.
What are you doing in my dream?
Well, it's tax time. Trying to save you some anxiety.
Thanks.
H&R Block. We know. Do you?
Forecast mostly sunny skies.
The entrance to the storage shed is about 4 feet wide, so I'm going to need 2 doors. Here's one of them. The frame is made up of 5/4 pine, and the panel is 1/2-inch tongue and groove paneling material. Now I need to make a groove in the stiles and the rails to receive the panel. To do that, I've set up my table saw with the stacked dado head cutter at a 1/2-inch width, and I've adjusted the fence so that the groove will be right in the center of the rails and stiles. Now, the rails and stiles of the door are joined with mortise and tenon joinery, and I want to make the mortises in the stiles. So I'm using my dedicated mortising machine. That does a nice job, doesn't it? Now I'm ready to form the tenons on the rails, and the first thing that I have to do is make the shoulder cut. So I've set up a stop block which determines the length of the tenon, and I've adjusted the height of the saw to 5/16 of an inch. Well, now I turn to my tenoning jig, which is a device that allows me to safely hold the rails in a vertical position so that I can make the cheek cuts. Now, with the stop block set up and my blade raised to 1 inch, I'm able to nibble away a portion of the tenon This is called the haunch tenon. That little piece is the haunch. Now let me show you why I have to do that. When I ran the stiles, the groove for the panel goes all the way through. If I was to remove all of the tenon in that area, you'd see that groove. But by leaving a haunch, it fills it in. All right, now we're ready for a little bit of assembly. And I'm spreading glue in the mortises. On this particular type of glue, you only have to apply the glue to one surface. On the other surface, you just dampen it with water, believe it or not, because this is a moisture-cure glue. Now for the panels, I just slide in the pieces of tongue and groove board. And I don't put any glue in the grooves that are actually in the stiles and rails, but I will put a couple dabs in the groove of the panel to hold it together. Now I've got about 20 minutes of open time with this glue. Plenty of time to get everything aligned, and then I'll clamp it up and set it aside to dry. There's another type of door to build, and here's one set. These are the doors that close in the rubbish storage area. They're made out of the same 1x6 tongue and groove siding that I use to close in the rubbish area, and they're held together with these cleats. And this is known as a Z-brace door. They're really easy to make. Now here are the boards to make a door, cut to the correct length, and the end pieces ripped to the correct width. Now what I want to do is clamp them together and make sure it's square. .29 7/8, that's good. No glue here, just some 1¼ inch galvanized screws. The diagonal part of the brace was cut at the miter box set at 40 degrees. Now once I finish this and give these doors a coat of paint, I'll be ready to install them. Well, it took a few hours to complete the clapboarding, and now I'm installing the Z-brace doors, which enclose the rubbish area. And they're held in place with some 4-inch T-hinges just applied to the surface. Okay, now to hold the doors closed, just a simple barrel bolt. That's all you need. Now over here on the other side of the shed, we have the doors to secure the tool area. Now, the paint is actually still drying on these, but the doors are hung on 1½ pair of butt hinges. The left door is the fixed door, held in place with a couple barrel bolts, one at the bottom and one at the top hold the door closed. Now on the operating door, I've attached a strip of wood with glue and nails, and that overlaps the fixed door. Now all I have to do is figure out some kind of locking hardware, and I'll be ready to load in the garden tools. Finally a place to store the tools. Of course, now I got to figure out how I'm going to hang things on the walls, but at least everything's out of the weather. This was a good project.